We are together for 1 hour and a half for a panel on cooperatives in Southeast Asia, organizational model, marketing operations, and benefits to farmers. So we have 4 distinguished guests who I will present later on. And I will start just a very brief introduction just to think of why we choose this topic for a round table. Why did we choose to have a kind of exchange together? Agricultural cooperatives have always been a major player in the world for agricultural development. They are mostly involved in groups of farmers that collectively access provision service or inputs and collectively market their products. And we all have in mind some cooperatives that are model, that are very well known. I personally work in the dairy sector, in the milk sector, and in this sector in particular, we know very emblematic forms of cooperatives. In India, for example, the Amul cooperative is a very social model. In one state of Gujarat, they group 3.5 million very small farmers who have only 2 cows or 1.5 cows, 1 or 2 cows, because it's difficult to divide a cow. In America, there's a big player, which is called the Dairy Farmers of America. They group 15,000 farmers, and they produce 20% of the milk of the whole country. And among the 10 big players in the dairy sector in the world, 5 of them are cooperatives. It's Dairy Farmers of America, Lactalis in France, Frontera in New Zealand, Frisian Campina in Netherlands, and Arla Food in Denmark and UK. And those really are big industries, big players, but they are really cooperatives. And I'm sure in Canada we have a lot of examples. So in Vietnam, according to the Ministry Vice Minister of Agriculture, there are around 14,500 cooperatives, and he says that only half of them are active. So, but what is interesting is that the model is becoming more and more important in the development strategies because of non-Tomoy program. The new rural development program is focusing on supporting cooperative. We now see that cooperatives are becoming very important. It was not the case 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 15 years ago. And I think it's something that is important. So in order to discuss the importance of cooperative, we have 4 colleagues and distinguished researchers. Dr. Dao Teang is an agricultural economist, vice president of VAS, the Vietnamese Academy of Agricultural Science. He was formerly the director of CASRAD, and he has an extensive experience in rural development programs and value chain support. We have Dr. Huang Vu Quang, who is Vice Director of the Institute of Policy and Strategy for Agriculture and Rural Development, IPSARD. In his career, he has been involved in many national and international research projects on agricultural value chains and rural development. And recently, he produced a very interesting report for the ministry on cooperatives and strategies for cooperative development. We have the chance also to have Oleg Nisetic, who is a research fellow from University of Queensland in Australia. He works on HER projects focusing on sustainable production systems in northwest Vietnam. And Oleg has been working in Southeast Asia for 15 years and has an expertise in rural development, in communication for rural development, in also adaptive management of agricultural systems. And he will talk about his experience, in particular in Mok Chau. And we have last colleague from Laos, Phu Yang. Phu Yang is currently lecturer assistant at National University of Laos, and he works in the Department of Rural Economics and Food Technology at the Faculty of Agriculture of the university. And Phu Yang holds a master degree from Montpellier, Supagro in France, and is involved in several research projects, including those related to farming systems and collective action in crop production and in livestock. Is that right? Thank you. So I will just ask Mr. Phu Yang to start as a guest inviting from Laos. And I think, could you please give us your experience concerning cooperatives and its importance in rural development?
Okay, so good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me to share some experience in case in Laos. According to your question, yeah, of course, cooperative is very important for especially small farmers that relies to development, rural development issue, because actually small farmers or small producers, the case in Laos, they're facing the problems that access to market. I mean, modern market or international market. For example, in case of coffee. Cooperative or the cooperative is one way that is the one choice that can bring the opportunity to small farmers to access to the market. So this is why the cooperative is very important for rural development. Actually, in Laos we have many cooperatives, but it is not. It's not very old cooperative. Just a few years ago, because it is because our long story, like since before 1975. At that time, we have some cooperative, but the main objective is not target to the market or to business, just to produce food for consumption, just to be secure the food for household consumption only. So after that, our policy was a bit changed, they oriented to the market economics. So until the year 1986, so the cooperative is drop out. So there is no cooperative anymore until the year 2012. So after these years, so the cooperatives come back because the competitive between the regional market or international market, that we need the power to negotiate. Like, for example, for coffee, the small farmer cannot, access to the certificate by, for example, organic coffee. So it is necessary to group together, to like a corporate together to access the international market. Then that's why I can say like a cooperative is a bit new for us in our case. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kwang, could you give us your vision about cooperatives in Vietnam from your point of view at IPSAR? So from a policy point of view?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me here to share some idea about the agricultural cooperative in Vietnam. Do you think agriculture cooperative is very important in the agriculture production system in Vietnam? Because we have so much small producer, and in the context of deeper integration in the work economic, it's a very good for the enterprise to develop the model value chain without cooperation with the small farmer. But to support that, we need to develop the agriculture cooperatives so that in different regulations, legislation document, we emphasize on the development of agriculture cooperatives. The government issues so much preferential and supporting policy to agriculture cooperative, even now than at the local governments. So much the provinces interested into supporting the cooperative, and we think even that, as Gil mentioned, now we have the more 14,000 agricultural cooperative, but the big limitation of our agriculture cooperative is the limited competence, is the less effective needs because of several reasons. But now I think last month the government revised the 50 years of implementing the big policy on the cooperative. In that, the government asked to revise the regulation for the agriculture cooperative, maybe the amendment of the law on the cooperative. And we are developing the new strategy for cooperatives, including agriculture cooperative, to think from the government side and from the reality of agriculture sector. The agriculture cooperative will have the new development, but not at the last time, because we see now, maybe in the different report, they mention different factors that limit the development of agriculture cooperative. For example, the limited capacity of the cooperative manager, the limited resource, capital, asset, the lack of the competence of the supporting fund from government, etc. But from my side, the big challenge is the legislation environment for the operation of the cooperative, and that now the government think about that with maybe we have the new regulation on that. We hope that Just at the same time, we encourage the different model. I think it's very important to revise the law on the agriculture cooperative to modify the new model of the agriculture cooperative, because now the new context is different from the 20th century. Now the cooperative have to compete with the different stakeholders. That we need the new model. I support from the study from the experiences some countries, for example, United States, Netherlands, Germany. I think the some model is very, very good, and we can learn from that to facilitate the cooperative to access to the capital, to the market. That is the more important for the new cooperative. But I hope that the agriculture cooperative will have a new development in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kwang. So probably Dao Tehang can give us some insight from his side on the history of cooperatives and the way it evolved a long time, and to give us some insights of his experience on the field.
Yes, thank you, Guillaume. Yes, I think that the cooperative topic in Vietnam will give, along the history of agriculture and development, will give us a different image. There are different period. Here we talk about the old cooperative and new cooperative. The old cooperative during the before 1988 is the old generation of cooperative, so we call this Sovietic model. So farmer don't have the decision. So every production factor is ownership of the cooperative and state ownership. So this cannot give incentive for farmers. I just returned from Cuba last week, and we think that in different old Soviet country, we can see now in Cuba this old cooperative model still exists. That's farmer don't have incentive for production because we have no market. Market is managed by government, so we don't have market economic. So now the real cooperative, I think that when related to the real market economic. So in Vietnam, because after the 1988, we established, we recognize, politically we recognize household economic, and we recognize family farming. So at the same time we established, we think that small farmer need the collective action for different reasons. For we can have different research to show this, but for the different type of collective input organization and also the market access and different type of services that small farmer cannot do individually for themselves. So we need the support from cooperative and cooperative. So we at that time in our Center of Agrarian System, we already established department research called Farmer Organization Research. It's a unique research organization department in Vietnam focusing on different type of farmer organization. And during the last 30 years, because this center will celebrate 30 years of establishment and research in Vietnam, so we can see that the role of cooperative and collective action of farmer is more and more important. When the farmer go to the market, small farm go to the market, they need different type of services. And we have a lot of pilot and case study, etc., in different agricultural industry and different agricultural value chain to show this. And I believe that in our meeting room we have a lot of colleagues working in different. But I'd like to confirm that the small farm need a collective action, and institutionally, the most important institution to support farmers currently is cooperative. And in Vietnam, we change the cooperative law a lot of time. We have the cooperative during last 20 years. We have three cooperative law, three tribe change. The last one is 1996. Secondly, you have a second law in the 2003, and the last one 2012. That means the conception of cooperative in Vietnam politically is changing. We'll have a lot of debate and discussing, and some mixing to differentiate cooperative and enterprise, private enterprise. I think that for the research we should make clear what is the difference between the private business law and then cooperative law and different type of operation model. So for me, for the 30 years of working with to support farmer, because I start my career of research with research supporting farmer household since 1990. So we see that firstly the cooperative don't replace household economic, don't replace family farming, but focus on the supporting the services to support. And the most important is the last cooperative law, we focus on the small cooperative, but focusing on the supporting farmer to access market. So in our research activities and also development activities, we have a lot of activity to test different type of cooperative model in different industry. And we can see that maybe the most important, we can see the most important role of cooperatives is where we farmer need market access. For example, dairy or vegetable, the fresh product. The role of cooperative is very clear. And what is a cooperative can support for farmers? So firstly, the support for logistic, different type of logistic and post-harvest, and also for market access. And I think that the cooperative can support farmer for the bargaining power. Because every household and family farming produce a small quantity of product, and the quality is not homogeneous. So it's very difficult to negotiate with the trader. The main constraint of small farm in Vietnam, like this, everywhere. You can see that we meet a farmer in a different area in Vietnam. Everywhere farmers that, yes, I can produce, but the most important constraint is market access. I cannot negotiate, I cannot find the market. So who in support farmer? Government cannot do this. Farmer individually cannot do this. So the only role is cooperative. Second point I can add is that in Vietnam we can see, according to our experience of research, is that we can see before cooperative we have a simple FOB, this farmer group. Farmer group is informal form of farmer collective action. And recently we have a new policy, new decree just issued last year, I think this year in several months ago, on a farmer group. This is the preparation, the preparatory period of cooperative, because cooperative in Vietnam is now according to the new law 2012, but according to our report by the MART, etc., only the last 3 years that we can see the cooperative development. For fast development of cooperative, you can see currently we have about 20,000 cooperatives in agricultural sector. So each cooperative is still small, majority is still small, but I think that this is a very good starting for the cooperative development, because every farmer in Vietnam now in different area and region, we need the market access, and how cooperative can support farmer to access to the market. I think that the main challenge for small farm in Vietnam and family farming in Vietnam is to produce accordingly to the standard of the buyer. Now we have different type of buyer. They propose different type of standards. For export market, each country we have standards and food safety barrier, etc. And even for domestic market, if farmer want to commercialize the product, they have to follow the standard of buyer. And how to different small farm can produce according to the buyer standards. So cooperative can support this. Nobody can support a small farm except for cooperative. And now Vietnam signed different type of free trade area convention with different big market such as US, Australia, Japan, EU, etc., changing very fast. Politically in Vietnam open the market for agricultural product, but the main constraint for farmer is how to follow this. I think up to now this period the role of cooperative will be very important. But how to and also farmer household, family farming household should modernize.
Thank
because
you. Sorry.
We need the modernization to invest and to produce for the market, and we think that also the role of the cooperative can support. I would like to conclude that cooperative will not replace household economic, but it would support for family farming to modernize and to access to the different type of market.
Thank you, Anh Thanh. You will be able to talk in a second round. So until now we had a Phu Yang point of view, who told us that there is a new dynamic in Laos for smallholder to enter the market economy with cooperatives. We had the point of view from Kwang, who said that now really cooperatives are at the agenda, politically speaking, and that the MPI and MARD are asking for a new strategy for cooperatives. And then we had the contribution from Tehang, who said that small farms need cooperatives, and that in the last 30 years they really needed collective action, collective organization, that the strategy, the regulation changed over time to adapt to the new market economy. And Tehang also said that cooperatives are essential for market access, including access to export markets, but also to local markets. And they are essential for to help farmers to modernize and to support the household economics. So from this general overview of the debates on cooperatives and on the policy issues, I will ask Oleg and Puyang to give us two concrete examples of farmer groups or cooperatives that they work with in order to illustrate this general overview with some concrete examples. So Oleg, yeah?
Thank you. So we mentioned a few times, and yes, the cooperative and farmers group, they can really work for farmers, but only when the farmers have some need that organization can meet. Many groups, farmer groups, over projects I'm involved, all over Southeast Asia, was formed and then collapsed because they were cooked by researchers and the government, and then we have to form these groups, or we have to form these cooperatives because we put in our project proposal we need 20 of them, so you have to find farmers to form them. Now, if the farmer have a real need for some collective action, then actually they work. And now I will give you example from Mok Chau that these groups worked because, as Dao Tian said, there were real opportunity to access premium markets if the farmer can produce vegetable in off-season and if they can get GAP certification, so they save. So then they can actually get benefit by accessing that markets. And it started as a farmer groups, and as a farmer groups, they already achieved all these goals. This transition from groups, which is much actually simpler organization, to cooperative is more coming from outside forces, because the government changed the way they provide support. So up to 2 years ago in Mok Chau, you could access government help as a group, certification for GAP as a group, but now you have to be cooperative to be able to access that. So but because we had already very successful group, that transition to cooperatives went relatively smoothly. But I can't see that there were many benefits by changing to that new structure. And I also building on what Dao Tian said, is that today's law, the cooperative law of 2012, is mixture between collective action and cooperative as we think about it as enterprise. Actually, in the law, there is provision that you can have cooperative without collective action. Cooperative is supposed to give services to their members, right? So it's a very different way if you collectively market something, or the cooperative is one of the avenues you can market your products. And that's exactly what's happening in Mok Chau. So cooperatives in Mok Chau are one of the avenues for farmers to sell their products. And when we look and we interview many farmers, it is about usually 30–40% of the total production is sold through the cooperatives. And the cooperatives, we call them trader-centered cooperatives. The same in Mokchao and in Baha in previous projects. They really are run by a very strong cooperative director who is usually very skilled trader and who are managing relationship with premium markets, supermarkets, niche markets like Baktom and so on. And the good news is that farmers are getting benefits of it, right? It is the best price farmer can get for their product if they meet the quality. So once they meet quality, they sell through the cooperative, it's the best. They usually, in most time of the year, they get highest price. But they can only sell certain amount of the products through that way. We could not, we did quite detailed study. There is no evidence that there is any common assets or that the capital of the cooperative come from many members. Is usually all by the cooperative director. So the cooperative director provide all the, not charter capital, but all really, real capital. And they also, the goods, the ownership of the goods from the members stop at the time of they give to the cooperative. Whatever margin, whatever price cooperative achieve on the final destination, it's remain with the cooperative director, right? So it's very difficult to see big difference between private enterprise and these new style cooperatives. There is also, we still have some farmer groups existing, and actually in these farmer groups, which are not, so the difference is cooperative is legal entity, farmer group is not legal entity. In these farmer groups, we can still see, actually in some of them we can see more collective action, but also in Mokchao and with beef and other, we can see that many of these groups are connected on some kind of family lineage, of clan lineage, like Hamongs have clans. There would be people from one clan, so also with the fruit. And they would be very, very successful groups, farmer groups. Very successful, because it's a high level of trust between them. And so, again, coming back to the cooperatives and all this organization, it would be also the level of trust that will determine success of these cooperatives. And because in all these examples, when we talk about Mokchao and Baha, the people who run the cooperatives are part of the community. They are connected to the people with these members. They're from same commune, same village. And there is a quite high level of trust between them. So there's no much record keeping, I can tell you, about all these transactions, but there is quite high level of trust, and they actually work. I think I will stop in this point.
Yeah, thank you. So Oleg, you raised many questions. You talked about groups and the way groups can later on form cooperatives. And you talk of the dynamics of the cooperative, which according to you is a mix between business, enterprise, and collective action. Huh? And you show that the capital is sometimes owned by the director, that the benefits are for farmers, but the profit can be for the director, who is sometimes a trader.
Benefits come from high price from it.
Thank you. And you talked about trust in the cooperative. So I'm sure you have a lot of question reactions, and maybe before we open to the floor, we will have just a picture of some farmers groups and cooperative in Laos with Fu Yang.
Yeah, okay, so I would like to share you some experience on farmers groups in Laos. In this case, because usually the cooperative exists in in southern Laos. So the case I'm going to share is in northern Laos, that I work with them on farmers groups on animal rearing farmers in northern Laos, especially for ruminant and pig. So The reasons why they need to form together or to group together is that before the farmers they raise the animals just in forests or free grazings in forests of very well the farmers can find the pasture for their animal. So it is many problem there. There is many problem for fighting animal, for taking care, or for vaccinating the animal. So the IFAD project have since that they are facing many problems. So the IFAD project try to form them together as a group in each village. So the total group is around 1,500 groups in northern Laos, around 5 provinces in Laos. And until now, some groups still functioning very actively, but some is failed already. So based on our research, show that there are many factors that affect on the sustainable of the farmers group. So one is the trust, as Oleg mentioned already, like the trust between member or the trust between member and the group manager. This is because some when farmers group together, so they need some we call common activity or collective activity of the group. So if farmers they trust each other, so this can work very well. So they can cooperate between member, or they have a very high solidarity between them. But for animals, market for animal farmers groups, market is not the main issue for them, because for cattle in Laos we have a lot of market demand, like Vietnam or China. They need to import a lot of cattle. So cattle is not market cattle for cattle is not a problem. But the problems that can affect on the animal farmers groups is the opportunity cost. So as we know that animal is, if some farmer invest in animal rearing, it means they need to take a bit time to get the benefit compared to another work like become a staff which a company, or in some project, I don't know. So that work they can earn like monthly payment or monthly incomes compared to animal rearing. So they need 1 year to have the benefit from a cattle, for example. So the farmers, they compare between these two kind of activity. So in this case, the group will not work very well. So this is just, the second things that we call like an external factor that can affect on the group. But it's still some internal factor, like the experience of the farmer. As we have talked yesterday. My colleague Kampu said that between Hmong and Khmer people, Because Hmong people, they have, for example, Hmong people, they have a lot of experience, or they have a long experience on cattle rearing. So when a project arrive in their villages, so they really want to involve the project, and they're very active to implement the activity, compared to another group that they have less experience, or they don't have experience on cattle rearing. So when the project promotes cattle rearing, it's a bit hard for them to follow the activity. There's some experience that we got from a small research in northern Laos. Yeah, that I want to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Fu Yang. Is there any of the 4 panel speakers who want to add a comment before we give the floor, the opportunity for our colleagues to contribute? Yeah? Yes? So we'll take some questions. Please raise your... So in the last comment from Fu Yan, we had a contribution on the different factors that explain the success of the groups, of the cooperatives, factors of success. So Fu Yan discussed about trust, market access, also labor and cost of labor and opportunity cost of other activities, and also experience in the activity. Are there any comments, contributions, or yes? Yes, we can. I will distribute the microphone.
Thanks so much, Mr. Chairman. Thanks also a lot, the panelists. My name is Tan. I'm from the ICRAP country program. Just wanted to comment in general about the situation with the cooperative in Laos and Vietnam. In Vietnam, it used to be very strong in the past, and currently people have been talking about around 20,000, 14 to 24,000 cooperative being established in the country. And Dr. Thế Anh mentioned about, lots of them are not very effective. So, the lessons from good cooperative, I think, have been well documented. Have there been any study done on the factors that lead to the failure or the ineffective operation of current cooperative? I know there has been a lot of them, but has there been any thorough study on why they are not operating as they was expected to, and what factors influence the operation? Thank you.
I think that recently we have a review on the new cooperative, what is the success and the failure. New cooperative, and we can see that firstly the cooperative is we have at least two type cooperatives. New cooperative, first is the cooperative based in the farmer group before, because they have the need for cooperation. I agree with Oleg that cooperative is cooperation, collective action with farmer is a process. They have evolution, and then some cooperative form based in the previous farmer group, and they need to go to the market access. They need the modernizing and etc. It's more sustainable, and we have also type of new cooperative, but formed by some administrative decision due to the political decision. So this is maybe we don't see that in this kind of cooperative we don't have the need for collective action, need for cooperation. So this is the most important thing, that if farmer don't, the cooperative evolution in Vietnam is maybe different from other countries, that we have mixed farmer incentive and also governmental decision, and we can see some. So that's cause that some sub-cooperative cannot work successfully. If farmer don't have really the need for different type of services, collective services or market access, etc., the cooperative cannot work. And secondly, we have a lot of constraint in Vietnam for the land policy. Also the question, because the cooperative, in order to work well, they need different type of good political environment. And in Vietnam, we have a lot of constraint. Firstly, is the land law and land policies that cannot enough for cooperatives. Second thing is the financial, the credit market is also not favorable for cooperative. The bank in Vietnam now, they don't, even we have a policy to support cooperative, but the bank don't support cooperative. They prefer to borrow the credit for individual farmer or private enterprise, and not cooperative, because the cooperative don't have the land. The land title is in the kind of different household. This is the factor that some cooperative they want to work, but it's very difficult to change the scale, because we have some land constraint and credit constraint, and other thing is that the cooperative law is sometimes very in terms of governance system is still complicated, and also for the new cooperatives, the capacity of cooperative leaders for a clear management of mostly financially is difficult, because for the cooperative we have a double system of accountability, and accountability is also when we have a lot of business activities, the accountability is also important factor that cooperative cannot achieve currently. Thank you.
Yeah. If I can add, I think one of the also problems is that what usually local government want to do is to develop model cooperatives, and then showcase that model cooperatives, and then that cooperatives would spread, and the expectation would be they will be equally successful as that model cooperatives. Problem many times is that actually the market they're targeting is quite limited. So in my fruit project, we had two very successful farmer group cooperatives producing plum for very high end market. And the farmers who were in these cooperatives or groups really have very, very high income. But the problem is that whole that market can absorb maybe 100 tons of plum. There is a 20,000 tons of production of plum, and only, let's say 200 out of 20,000 can actually go to that market. So once we have these two groups, we basically, we use the market opportunity for that. Yeah, you can go to Ho Chi Minh and do a little bit more, but there's no infinite market for that model. Similar is with vegetables. Vegetables, yeah, it's much bigger than for plum, but now we have already about 10 groups. Cooperatives, probably we reaching the ceiling for that market segment. Now, if you start and want to multiply more, that will be not successful. You have to find another opportunities.
Thank you, Oleg. Are there any other questions? Yes, we take Estelle and then.
Well, I'm not sure, Anne, I understood your point properly about cooperative double system of accountability, because I'm not familiar with that. So that's just a short comment. Then on the question of targeted market and answering market requirements, etc., also market is evolving, the nature of the demand changes, the sophistication of the demand and the need for different qualities evolve. And I understand from what you said, and that's what is usually said, that cooperatives could be a way of better approaching quality management for the farmers. So could you reflect more on that? Because I also trust from what you said, Oleg, that yes, at a specific point of time, market will be limited for some specific groups who met that demand, but that demand is actually growing. So we could think of upscaling if we upscale the mechanism for managing quality in these specific groups. That would be an assumption. So, and this morning we've been seeing that the question of the control system of the groups was a very important one. And I trust that that question of quality management is something that will create a big leverage for farmers to better integrate market through cooperatives.
Hello, I am Nga from Hellbridge Foundation of Canada. I have a question. We have seen quite a lot of the linkage or dual cooperative between markets and agricultural farmer. I guess you already have some kind of assessment of the cooperative, a kind of triangle cooperative between the market, agriculture or farmer and health, especially in the sector. I guess you have, but in this meeting, I haven't seen any analysis of that. There's some from the presentation about the pork, about food safety, but I haven't seen very clearly the result of the cooperative or effectiveness of that analysis. So if you can give some examples, yeah, it's very appreciated.
Questions raised by Estelle and Mrs. Nam. So on double accountability and on market segment, and then Mrs. Nam on the impact of cooperative on health and on wealth and on the benefits, the general benefits of cooperative. Is that right? Yeah. Who wants to contribute?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
I think the question on double accountability is that the cooperative law in Vietnam required cooperative in the accountability system to separate service for the member and service for outside. Service for the member is tax exemption, and service for outside is tax. But it's really difficult for farmer to do this without a very strong computer system because they have a different type of mix. So in general, cooperative don't have benefit from tax exemption because they cannot separate so I think this is for the capacity. And for the question of related to health, in our activities, research is more focusing on food safety and maybe better nutrition, etc. It's a food system approach. But we can see that a lot of cooperative for organic production in the surrounding area of Hanoi is very good example for the. So we can show that cooperative can support the safe product and organic product to access the market, and also for organic production we can see maybe we need more research, but some positive impact on the health of the producer, because and for organic production, we need really the role of cooperatives, because mostly for the collective commercialization, and also for the certification, because the majority of organic production area in Vietnam currently certify PGS, participatory guarantee system. So for this we need really the cooperative and farmer association to be certified, because this is a group certification, and I think this is for third-party certification system in Vietnam for organics don't work very well up to now. So the most popular certification system for organics is the PGS, and we can see that the role of cooperatives is very positive.
Yes,
Hello, I have some comment. First, about the land issue, Dr. Thiai mentioned. Now the government is preparing a new degree on the land consolidation and land centralization. In that, the policy to support the cooperative to land from the farmer. From the IPSAT side, we propose the government can support the 50% of the land rent in 5 years, so that to support the cooperative. But that's our proposal. I'm not sure about the government agree with that. And on the issue of the financial management system, from our experience, so much we saw a lot of the cooperatives, they do not produce, they do not have the good financial system. They don't have the dossier even in normally for the rule. At the end of the year, they have to give the financial report to the tax services, but a lot of cooperatives, they do not that. Even that public service do not supervise, do not control, so not good for that. And I think a good factor for the success of the cooperative, agriculture cooperative, is involved actively in the development of the value chain. Maybe they can develop their our value chain, and they can participate in the linkage to the enterprise. When the cooperative participate in the value chain or in the value chain linkage to the enterprise, normally they have to apply the certificate production process, for example, VietGap, Global Gap, the organic, but sometimes they can improve productivity, reduce production costs, improve quality and food safety. I think from our experience, a lot of, normally for the difficult for the cooperative to be successful without involved in the value chain, in the commerce, the agriculture product, because the cooperative have to compete actively with the input provider, for example, small household enterprise. So without involvement in the value chain, in the linkage to the with the enterprise, is difficult for the cooperative. I think there is mentioned that some another factor. We think the important, the most the cooperative in success with support from the project, from the development organization. So we like really local consultant, good consultant to support the cooperative. I think at the national level, we need to develop this network to support a lot of the cooperative. Now the project, the development organization cannot support sometimes more 14,000 of the cooperative. So that we need that. But from a lot of the study from another country mentioned the public consultant is a good policy for the agriculture cooperative development. Thank you.
But I have a question. You say that cooperatives need to be supported at the local level. Yeah. Is there a role for the Center for Extension Services to support cooperatives, or is it completely something that the center does not do at all?
In their function, they have the mission to support agriculture cooperative, support the farm, but at the moment, the most services extension center in the province and the district focus on the technical issue.
So that's a pity. I have another question for you, Kwang. Oleg said that cooperatives are a mix between business, enterprise, private business, and collective action. You say that cooperatives have to develop their own value chain. Huh? It's what you said. So how do you see the role of those private investors, traders, in the support of those cooperatives? Is it something that has to be strengthened? Is it something we have to be careful on, or is it, how do you see that from your point of view?
It depends on the product, on the cooperative capacity. There now maybe now, even in the one cooperative, they can develop their own value chain. For example, some in the dairy cooperative, they can the cooperative can buy the fat milk, process and sell their product. At the time, sometimes they can have the link to the enterpriser in the processor to sell the milk, for example, and in the Grab, in the Ningtuan, for example, and there are free, they can develop their value chain to sell directly to the shop, to supermarket. Sometimes they can sell their product to the enterprise continue to export to the market. I think the combined different, so that in the value, normally in the linkage in the value chain between the enterprise and the cooperative, the more complicated. Normally, the success is only in the case the enterprise needs the product with the specific quality. For example, they need to export to the higher price market. They cannot buy in the normal market. So in this case, they have to link to the cooperative, to the farmer, to produce this quality product.
So you say it's a mutual benefit between the farmers and the trader or exporter. Yeah, Oleg, you wanted to, and then we will take other questions.
I think this was a very important point about the capacity of cooperative to manage cooperative administratively, to deal with the tax, to deal with all these issues which cooperative as a legal entity has to. And it's much easier to train farmer to produce something than actually to manage finance, to manage tax and so on. So that's why I really feel that in the last few years, by government so much encouraging cooperatives to be formed from the group, we're not doing right things. Because the group can, and I can give you examples, can be part of the value chain with the same effectiveness as cooperative, without additional burden of being legal entity. It's a very important thing.
Yes.
Yes, I can add some more things that we have a lot of debate on this, because we see that maybe some I think all depend on the capacity of cooperative. We can see the cooperative-led value chain and also the enterprise-led value chain in different area in Vietnam. But for the farmer group, we with the new law, I think that this year issue this 2019 very new because I think we also recognize the role of farmer group.
Farmer groups is tổ hợp tác.
Tổ hợp tác, yes,
Okay.
tổ hợp tác, collaborative group or farmer group is lower than cooperative. Is informal form. Cooperative is formal as enterprise. So they also can involve in the. So after this policy, maybe there are some policy to support farmer group also in the rural area. Not only waiting a lot of only for cooperative.
So here we have a debate between two visions of what should be done. We'll continue with some questions from the floor. Yes, we had Isabel and then.
Thank you. Well, actually, you took half of my question. So, several of the panelists mentioned that there's the expectation. Well, it looked like there was expectation that cooperatives will help small farmers access the market, and I would like to ask, more generally, who will help the cooperatives? Because to access these markets, you need human capital to understand new requirements of the market, or for certification or food safety, etc. Also, I guess, financial needs. So I was asking myself, are we in this neoliberal context where help yourself and the market will help you, or is there, in the institutional context or of Vietnam and Laos, support that is given to these cooperatives?
The big question that I already mentioned for some factors that we need some change in the land policy, credit policy, to adopt cooperative as main actors. So, and also the extension services and maybe cooperative develop system in locality. That's something that we lack. This is a big gap in Vietnam. So we are working with the cooperative department in the ministry also to also try to train, and also to the question public extension services. They have to change the approach, not only working in the technological demonstration, but also changing the approach to support farmer for collaborative group, cooperative, etc. Because really now we need extension system capacity to work on the cooperative promotion. So I think that after the policy and the law, the services for cooperatives is a need for developing. Because now we have 22,000 cooperative formally, but maybe the capacity is still very weak, and in order to upgrade this kind of capacity, we need a lot of public services. Also, maybe private services. Some private enterprise, they also have some section to support cooperative, but for particular value chain such as dairy or rice, sometimes private enterprise can also send staff to train the cooperative, but we cannot wait a lot in this sector because they have a private incentive.
Yes, so on this question on support policies, I think, Tehang, you were not clear. Because you said there are two types of cooperative. There are those who come from, bottom up, from collective action, farmers create a group and then they make a cooperative. And there are those who are, supported by administrative and political decision. And sometimes those cooperatives, they don't involve sufficient collective action and they fail. Is that what you said? But on support policies in every country of the world, the cooperative support policies are preferential policies. That means that they give preference to cooperatives to distribute credit, to distribute trainings, eventually to give land. So you force farmers to create collective action cooperatives. So you see my question, if you enter, as Vietnam did, if you enter into preferential policies, that means that you give subsidies and credit and trainings to cooperatives preferentially, then you will promote this kind of type 2 cooperatives, administrative induced cooperative.
Yes, I think that I agree that now we don't have the really policy to create a favorable environment for the cooperative, developing from a small group to cooperative and maybe bigger cooperative, etc. Because I don't say that we force to establish administrative cooperatives a good policy. So that why in Vietnam we have a lot of questions on how to create a good environment for cooperative development as a business entity. Also the challenge, but it's not easy to talk because related to land law we have to change the land law. To adopt the cooperative, we need to change the credit law. So it takes more time. The cooperative law cannot decide everything for production factors, input.
Yes, there was one question here. There will be other questions here.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on a point earlier spoken about. I mean, a lot of expectation on what the cooperative can do. So instead of raising very high expectation on the cooperative, on the operation, maybe the government should be more realistic to think, because of the limited capacity of those who will be there in the cooperative, we should lower the expectation on the cooperative. And also, the establishment of the cooperative should be based on the principle that farmers, on those who wanted to help themselves to improve the production and farming instead of trying to help others. It's first looking at a group of people who want to get organized and help themselves collectively before they reach out to others and help others. So that may be the starting point. Maybe somebody want to comment on that?
So it's a pragmatic vision of collective action. Yeah.
Yes. So again, coming back to this really small cooperatives in vegetables that are successful. And it would be that the people who run these cooperatives as directors and actually putting their own capitals, and eventually they actually buy the truck. They also get the government support to build the net houses or similar things, and so they do have clear business vision, and that's why these cooperatives are actually successful. But actually, most of these cooperatives don't even comply with the law because actually the cooperative doesn't have any property. They don't have anything to put as collateral to get any loan. So who take the loan? It's director as the individual. And who owns the truck? He as an individual. And then even the government, when the government gives them free or very subsidized net house or something like that, it's built on the land of the cooperative director. It's he kind of contribute with his land, blah, blah. So if anything happen, it's his. It's not, it does not belong to cooperative. So we have a very, very fun. So really, private enterprise. So really looking where is collective action there, it's next to none, right? It's very, very, very low. And then again, I'm coming back to these groups and things. Sometimes people do actually, because it's a simpler, so in a way, because you need to have all this, administration, you have to actually be connected with the government quite. So it's a nearly barrier for very poor farmers. For very poor farmers, it's much easier just to make a group between themselves and then start doing something, right? So that's, but I actually didn't study. I actually have to look the law 2019 on the groups.
I think that for the cooperative law, currently we have some filer, and we are discussing for the change of cooperative law. Because the cooperative law currently they don't give the room for small farm, for free. They try to manage the small farm and cooperatives as an enterprise. The cooperative law is very sparing the enterprise law. So I think that the word we compare the enterprise law and cooperative law, we can see that for cooperative law, and mostly for small farm, we cannot apply the same regulation. Very strict for enterprise. We need to give free room for farmer to cooperate. So that's why that some constraint, and we have a lot of experience in the rural area. I agree with Oleg that the modern, we say the modern, but not accordingly to the law. If we have the deep examination, but still good incentive for cooperatives is good, and we are promoting, and the law maybe should adapt for the development process and the need of farmers.
I think the question we mentioned maybe is the small farmer interested to be the member of the cooperative? For example, small farmer, the agriculture activity of small household represent over, for example, 10-20% of the total income. In this case, do they interested in the cooperative? I'm not sure. Because their income comes from the non-agriculture activity is the more important. So that one factor is we need to develop the new cooperative with the big farmer, the farm. It's the better method for the success of the cooperative, the challenge with the on small farmer. And you mentioned, so a lot talk about some enterprise, there is a cooperative to fulfill the preferential policy of the government in the tax access to land, for example. So that we think about that. In this case, limited resources of the public service go to the big farmer, go to the enterprise. It's not so good. So that we think about to need to improve the law on the cooperative to how to cooperative become more active and more attractive to small farmer. Now, from my point of view, a lot of preferential policy for the cooperative. One side, in another side, the public service cannot control, cannot supervise the cooperative. So a lot of the enterprise the established under umbrella of cooperative to fulfill the public policy.
Thank you. We had one question, and one question from Chitanlo.
Yes, thank you. Very, very nice for. I think that's for the cooperative. We can develop like value chain, like Dr. Kwang mentioned before. When cooperative can take advantage of corrective action when they buy input fertilizer, for example. For the case I researched maybe just 2 weeks ago when I studied one cooperative. When people they can buy fertilizer together, they can get discount about 500,000 per ton. It means that for in case of big production, the demand for fertilizer about 1,000 tons. It means that just by from the input supply fertilizer, they can benefit about 500 million Vietnam dong. I think it's a very good example for the case of collective action. And one of the principles in the cooperative that the member have to use the services of cooperative. If the member cannot use or they don't use for 6 months or more, they cannot be the members of cooperative. So another principle of the cooperative that when cooperative gets profits from their business, they have to share benefits for each member who use the services of cooperative. So in here, there are 2 double benefits when in terms of joint cooperative. They get discount from the buying fertilizer inputs material. Another thing, they can be share profit from business of cooperative. So in this case, I didn't see the banner here mentioned about the house cooperative share benefit for each member, or is any case you all here have an experience about this? Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nguyễn Thị Tân Lộc. I am working for Research Institute of Fruit and Vegetable. I am very interested on this panel. So I have first one contribute on this topic, and the second I would like have one question for Oleg. So first I would like to mention about the role of cooperative, and particular with the new form of cooperative. In Malica, we have a research in 2009 and 2010 on the food safety. On that time, we collect the vegetable sample from the 38 cooperative in peri-urban, and then we evaluate the safety of products through the quick test, and we found the new form of cooperative have a product more safety than the old. That is one means they good manage. And then we refer the result of the analysis through the lab of the center analysis at Hà Nội. The conclusion the same. And the second, at the moment, we follow the form of new cooperative through the Zika project. At the moment, Zika project implement in 6 different provinces with the 20 target group. We found with the new form of cooperative, the good management of the operation of all activity of the cooperative on the financial, and particular on the distribution of the product. For example, the support for 20 target group the same, but the new form of cooperative, they more dynamic than the old. They can access with different kind of buyer, not only the model as the supermarket or the shop. They can access with the different collector to provide the product to canteen. And even they find the way to find the input material, and then they manage the benefits in between the member in the cooperative, as Mr. Tung mentioned. So we hope the cooperative can develop sustainable. For example, in Hưng Yên at the moment there is the Yên Phú cooperative. The head of cooperative, they are young, they would manage the cooperative. He know how to promote own member in the management board to attend their own activity. So through 2 years, but the cooperative developed very fast. They can provide every day from 3 to 7 tons of vegetable for different kind of buyer. And the second, I have one question for Oleg. You see, when you work in Sơn as we work through the vegetable project and the fruit project, through the Fund of Asia, we found we depend the condition of the farmer. We support for create establish or cooperative or the group farmer. So depends them at the moment after, for example, with the vegetable project 7 years and with fruit project 5 years. So how do you think we can suggest for province with the new area, for example, in the other district, we can support the first for establish the cooperative or group farmer through the experience in the field some last year.
Thank you, Tan. So first comment on the importance of the management. In your comment, really in your study, you underline the importance of the governance, financial management, and the whole management. And the question is on what should we promote first, farmers group or cooperative when we start a new project? Is that right?
Yes, I would like to give the suggestion for example, Sơn province. What's the organization to?
Thank you very much. Before I give the microphone, are there some other comments from Laos or from, because we will soon finish our roundtable. So if there is a last question, we can take after Oleg's comment.
Yes, it's true that these cooperatives or farmer groups had a long support from the project. And actually, what was important here, it's not so much, the project did not give free fertilizers, all these things, but what actually was happening is a really very good continuous training of these farmers. And that, if Sơn La province is really serious in spreading this model, they really have to develop the extension services to be able to provide this level of technical support. Lots of trainings. There are so many trainings going everywhere in Vietnam, right? But they're very ineffective. They're trainings which are, you get the farmers, you cover 5-6 topics in one morning or in 2 days, and they're supposed to go home and practice that. It doesn't happen. What happened here over a long time is continuous on-farm support in some kind of continuous training, which was done by project staff and by extension. But the problem with extension is not their capacity. They're smart people. They don't have money to, operational money. They don't have money to operate. So they get just salary, but they can only sit in their offices. There's no money for motorbike. There's no money to go out and so on, right? So I would say that strengthening capacity to support, not just technical support. It's a technical support, by the way, we were talking before. Marketing support, how they market, how they access finance, how is crucial. That was the crucial element. Plus, of course, you have to know which market, what you're targeting, what's your goal? What's your goal in the sense of market access, and where that benefit of getting better or more of the product or timing of the product, where they go, where they actually, what you exactly targeting.
Thank you, Oleg. Last question, or are there any other comment? No?
Just because I did conduct a study on cooperatives in Sơn La and also in Dien Bien for farmer group and cooperative. So back to Anh Tung's mention of the service that cooperatives provide to members. So as Mrs. Dunlop just said, so when in her study, a new cooperative, I assume new here is formed based on Cooperative Law 2012, have been economically more successful and have more access to market. However, because I did a study on Cooperative Law 2012, access to market is not really inherent in the cooperative service. They actually can, the activities can be organized in many aspects. For example, they can purchase inputs together, they can sell their products together, they can put capital and then purchase input together, or they can put capital and then purchase product from member and sell to market. However, like in cooperative law, it's the division, the distribution of profit is actually very vaguely defined. So the law actually say that the profit is distributed based on the contributed capital of members and on the usage of the service. So there's two ways to define, and there's an end. So how can we know how to decide the profit that the cooperative make? And another comment is when I interview farmers, most farmers said that, well, we know that we have to put capital together to form cooperative, but then we have to make decision together, and just too time consuming, and we'd rather delegate the decision making and the marketing task to just one specific person. Usually it's director of the cooperative. So farmers themselves are aware of all this requirement, but in their opinion, they just all this requirement about collective activities, about capital contribution, about risk sharing, profit sharing, it's just too much for them to handle. So then they'd rather delegate that task to a person. So, well, and then, yes, that person might be a good, at managing business, will be able to get a lot of market connection, will make lots of money, and the cooperative will have lots of profit. But those profit will really consider belong to farmers. And also, so in some developed countries, they have really large scale cooperative, and they have enough money to employ manage CEO, what's that called? CEO, so that they separate the what is called the income right and the decision right. So then, well, members still get the right to get the distribution of income, but then they kind of outsource the decision making to a professional manager. But in Vietnam, I don't think we have the scale to do that yet. And farmers themselves think that collectively they cannot make good decisions. They would just fight and waste the time. So that's why they'd rather just let the cooperative director handle everything. So this is a question directed to Dr. Oleg Nisetic. So in your opinion, what can be done about that? And yeah, just all.
Thank you. I think that's a contribution to the fact that the current regulation has to be revised. It was something that was raised by Anh Quang. And I'm afraid we cannot today give all the answers, except if one of you want to contribute. I think we took note of your questions, and this will be something that will be help the group that will work on the new regulation. Are there other comments, Mr. Lapp? Or so I think we can now conclude our panel. We have discussed a lot. There are things that we agree on. So we agree that farmers need to cooperative to access market for quality issues, to access inputs. We agree that cooperatives need continuous support. It's not a question of forming a group one day and then giving a training. No, it's a question of how we can build a collaboration on a long-term basis. We agree that cooperatives are not the only form of collective actions. There are groups, informal groups, formal groups. And there are things that we do not agree yet on. And I think which is good because we need to continue our discussions. In particular, in Vietnam, in the context of the revision of the regulation, and in particular, we will continue to debate on the role of private businesses in the cooperative system. We will continue to debate on the access to credit, on the access to land for those who belong to cooperatives. And we will continue to debate on the respective role of groups versus cooperative. And really, I would like to thank the four panel speakers for their availability. I think we can give them applause. We can continue the discussion during the coffee session. And I think Malica gives a good example of our topic today because we have a collaborative organization. We have a kind of cooperative group of researchers. Hợp tác nghiên cứu, phải không? So we will ask for a label from the ministry. Thank you very much, everybody.